So this is my first attempt at surface mount soldering. This is a board I designed and had made at Osh Park. It's a servo board for a Stellaris launch pad. It has a power supply on it and some analog circuitry, as well as the servo connectors. And I've laid out all my parts that I need on this piece of paper here and marked them. And I'm going to apply solder paste with this syringe and then place the parts with these tweezers. Okay, I'm done applying the solder paste. That was a lot harder than I expected to do with a syringe. You can notice on this part here with the fine pitch pins, I wasn't able to get it on each pad individually, so I just kind of smeared it on there. And I've seen other people do this in their videos, and it seems like the solder usually wicks up onto the pins and gets off stops bridging between the pads. But if there's bridging, I'll have to fix it after I'm done with the reflow. It was kind of hard to get a uniform amount on all of the pads, but actually I got better as I went along, so I was able to get a pretty consistent dollop once I got the hang of it. And there was kind of a flow to it as well. I couldn't like start and stop. Once I had the flow coming out of the syringe, I had to keep going from pad to pad. That seemed to work pretty well. Anyway, next step is to place the components. Okay, that'll be next. Okay, I finished placing all the parts. That was pretty tedious. You can see why people like to use a stencil now for applying the solder paste. I may have a little too much solder paste in some of the parts and not enough on others, and I'll just touch that up with a soldering iron when I'm done. I also decided not to install the big inductor L1 right now. I'm going to do that with a soldering iron later. Anyway, all my parts are placed on the board, and I'm pretty pleased with the way they all came out, except this power supply chip right here. I do have solder paste between the pins, so let's hope that doesn't bridge when I reflow it. Anyway, next step will be to try to reflow. Okay, here's my plan for reflow. I have a aluminum plate to sort of evenly distribute the temperature. I've got this on a gas stove. I realize this is not ideal for controlling the temperature, but it's what I have right now, so this is what I'm going to try. I'm using leaded solder paste, and I'm aware of the issues of solder being, lead being toxic. So to try to reduce some risk, I put foil around the rest of the top here, counter stove top, so that if solder splattered or something, it wouldn't get on my stove. I think the actual risk of any contamination is vanishingly small, but I'm going to do that anyway. If I start doing this routinely, I'll get a dedicated toaster oven or electric skillet. Anyway, I'm going to start the temperature on very low and try to ramp up the temperature in a controlled way. I've got a IR thermometer so I can monitor the temperature of the circuit board. The solder paste is supposed to melt at 183, so I'm going to try to slowly raise the temperature up to 183, and then when the solder flows, I'll turn the burner off. That's my plan. We'll see how it works out. Okay, I finished with the reflow. I'd say overall it worked pretty well for a first attempt. It took about 5 minutes on the stove to heat up. I was going to video it, but I really couldn't because I don't have a camera that can get up that close. I think it came out pretty well. I have some bridging on this power supply part right here, but it's not too bad. I think I can fix that with a soldering iron. The main thing I was concerned about with that part is the power pad that's underneath the thermal pad, so I'm sure that flowed since the solder on the pins flowed. I also think I might have had some uneven heating because some of these outer parts don't seem to have flowed as well. So I'm going to touch it up with a soldering iron and install the inductor. Okay, the board is finished now. I've soldered in all the through-hole components. I had a few problems. I had to put a couple of jumper wires on the power supply because I had a mistake in my design there. And it looks like this power connector on the right is, I didn't get the spacing right on that, so I'll fix those in a future version. Anyway, I've already tested it out and it generates 5 volts like it's supposed to, and I've soldered in all the connectors so I can start testing it with servos.